So Highland Noise Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
Matt from Dinosaur Pile-Up.
And we're some questions today about their upcoming album, I Felt Better. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
I feel good. Yeah, I feel really good about it. It's nice for me just to be putting out new music into the world. So I'm already stoked the fact that it's getting released. But the fact that people are digging the singles really hard and people are excited about the record and stuff, there's a lot of good energy. That's a huge bonus to me.
Well, that's great to hear. The album absolutely rips.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad you guys think so.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's
Is there
nice.
any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yeah, for sure. I felt better. Um, that has a kind of bit of a longer backstory, but it kind of became a general vibe for me. Originally, I was very sick, unfortunately, in the sort of 2 years prior to the album getting made or finished at least. And I was in hospital a lot and I was having a really rough time and I was very unwell. So often when people would say, "How are you doing?" like friends and people that would visit me and stuff like that, I got so kind of like, I didn't always want to, I don't know, they said, "How are you?" I'd like, if I was truly honest about how I was, it would be a super depressing, pretty pointed conversation.
Yeah.
So to get around that, I always just said I felt better, just to kind of like breeze over it and get past it. So that's really why that was a significant phrase for me. But in general, throughout that whole time I was ill, there was pandemic, like the society of the world was seemingly just going freaking nuts, and there was a lot of like crazy stuff happening apart from me being really unwell. And I felt better kind of started to feel like a generalized feeling, to describe the state of my experience of the world and perhaps everyone's, shared experience of the world at that time. I felt better just kind of seemed appropriate as a title for everything because the album sort of encapsulates all of that stuff. And the artwork is by an artist called Fred Stonehouse, who's like probably like my favorite painter in the whole world. So it's kind of crazy that his work has ended up becoming the cover of the album. That was just a simple, like I saw that image a couple of years ago, and it just seemed to encapsulate like everything about the record for me. It was weird, like all the stuff I was going through, all the stuff like, I don't know, there's a little Satan in the corner there, there's death in the corner there. I was thinking about mortality a lot. The weird central character is this kind of weird, ugly amalgamation of like a man and a bat and loads of little different pieces. But he somehow sort of turns out kind of beautiful in a way. So all of these weird things about the image just kind of seemed appropriate to me. And somehow we got Fred to agree that we could use it.
That's dope
That
as
is
hell.
wonderful.
Yeah. Seems
Yeah.
very fitting.
Yeah.
I'm curious about just the overall timeline for the record, when the writing process started, when you guys had masters in hand, rough dates. They don't have to be exact, just to kind of get the full scope of things.
So timeline, yeah, kind of weird one, but this is actually quite common for me. Like there are some songs on this record that are super old, like Punk Kiss, for instance. I've had that idea for literally years, like years and years and years. It's gone through many iterations, and parts have stayed the same, and also parts have completely changed. Like originally I wrote that song about the like the scene, the punk scene when we were on a tour with Basement. That's why Basement is name dropped in the first line of or second line of the song, just because I wrote that on tour whilst we were on tour with Basement. And originally it was about the scene and like punk kids and like the kind of awesome energy and vibe of the community of the scene and stuff. But throughout the time I had that song, like when I met my wife Kay, I'd changed the chorus to Punk Kiss, and it was about meeting a girl at at a show and having that experience and wanting to see them more. And weirdly, the middle eight of the song is actually from a previous relationship after I broke up and there was like bad energy and stuff. And so the song's kind of like from three completely different experiences, but all mashed together. So the songs like Punk Kiss that are very, very old, I can't even remember when I wrote that, but it was like years ago. Or at least began writing it. And then there was songs um like About to Lose It. It was a bit older, but not as old as Punk Kiss. That was originally a different song with a different title. And then I sort of changed that towards this album. And 2023, I probably wrote the title track, I Felt Better, um, Sick of Being Down, and I Don't Love Nothing and Nothing Loves Me. I think I wrote those three songs literally on the same 3 days, really late on. They were the last songs I wrote for the album in 2023 or something. And then we majoritively cut the record in 2020 through 2023 and 2024. Yeah, that's right, because I'd originally recorded like half the record, which was like About to Lose It, Big Dogs, and all the sort of heavy hitters. And the label I was working with at the time said like, no, this isn't really the direction we want, which was weird and quite, yeah, bit of a struggle for me to sort of get my head around that. So I ended up writing I Felt Better and Sick of Being Down and Nothing Loves Me, and then the record was sort of solidified. So it was quite a long process. With me being sick, it was a different process. It meant everything took way longer, particularly cutting the record took much, much longer. So it was quite a long period.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
So can you tell us a little bit about the writing process for the album?
Yeah, I can tell you as much as I can.
Yeah.
My writing process is like pretty, yeah, like it's pretty insular. I write everything on my own. I wrote two songs on this record. I wrote with a friend of mine, Scott Stevens, out in LA. We originally, that's Love's the Worst. We started writing that in over Zoom. And then I went out and we finished it out there, I think. I think that's how I did it. And then Melon Heart I wrote with Scott and a couple of his guys out in Nashville. But the other songs is just me in my little studio on my own, which is usually how I write everything. I like to spend a lot of time with songs, so they sort of like go through a lot of different forms or stages. Even if the idea comes pretty quickly, I'll still spend quite a lot of time with it afterwards. And I sort of tried different things out. And I think that one of the most valuable things you can have and use as a writer is time. I appreciate that sometimes brilliant ideas come out of a spark of inspiration, and that is true. Sometimes they do, but I think the gift of perspective and hindsight when you're looking at songs is so beneficial, because sometimes you can live with a song for like 6 months or like 2 years and then be like, oh yeah, that bit gets boring right there, and I should do something there. But without having that time, you wouldn't get to learn that about the music. And in my early writing, I sometimes see those mistakes and I'm like, oh, you could have done something differently there. But now I try to like use as much time as I've got, and when people are putting deadlines on me for releases, I push back super hard on that, which is, I'm sure, really annoying. But I just think time's so important. So yeah, I spent a lot of time just on my own thinking about these songs. And I guess because I was ill and that was slowing down the process, that was actually had a kind of silver lining, because I got to spend like much more extended periods of time with the songs. And kind of like, thank God I did. Like Love's the Worst is a really good example. Like that had a completely different structure, completely different verses, it had a middle eight that's no longer there. And like 3 days or 2 days before we cut the final version of that, I wrote a completely new verse, because I was like, oh yeah, the verse sucks. Like that's not the verse. And sometimes I'm like, God, if you didn't do that, it would just be a completely different song.
Yeah.
Which kind of blows my mind.
Yeah.
So dope.
Yeah.
Music's fucking awesome like that. It's
Yeah,
just
right.
I fucking love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what song off the album took the longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite? I know you just mentioned long process, but out of all
Yeah.
of those songs, all those years, which one was the one that was the hardest to crack?
Damn. That's a good question.
Thank you.
Um, you're welcome. I think probably My Way, because it took a lot of like uh I'm trying to remember all the tracks real quick, but I think it's probably My Way. Yeah. Um, just because the cadence of that song, the humor in it, um, like again, you have to really like live with a song like that to make sure everything about it is landing, particularly the humor of it,
Mhm.
because it's so easy to not have that land. Um, so I spent a long time with that song, and like figuring out the verses and how I'd get to point A to point B, and that took a long time to write. Um, and I'd write it in like different stages. Like I wouldn't have a large portion of it, and I'd just be like, "That's cool, just like leave that. That'll come to you," and it did. And I'd like remember, voice note little lines here and there, and eventually you build the whole picture. But it sometimes that takes time. Um, and it's hard for me to pick. Was your second question, what's your favorite?
Personal favorite, yeah.
Yeah, and like that's really hard to pick because I really do love all of the tracks. But My Way is probably up there because I just think it's great, and I really love the fact that thankfully I was able to articulate exactly what I wanted to say
Hmm.
pretty well, I think. And I think there's parts of that song that have like really connected with fans and online and stuff. And I think that's because I was able to articulate it like properly. And so I'm really grateful that I was able to do that. And thus I really like that song. And I like all the different shades. It like, it's this kind of like Eminem type song that's over this kind of like punchy hard rock thing, and then it has the weird country
Hmm.
like like little weird country bit, and then it has the big hardcore breakdown. I can't remember which side of that it is. I don't know. I just love all the little colors of it. It's super
Yeah,
fun.
It's like four
But
genres in
then,
one.
for sure.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's cool. But then again, like the last song of the record, I Don't Love Nothing and Nothing Loves Me. I like fucking love that song. I don't know what it is. Something that really emotionally hits me with that tune. So that's also a favorite of mine.
Makes
Hmm.
sense. So how did the track list for the album come about? Did you guys write the opener for the opener, close be a closer, shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Yeah, interesting. About to Lose It. I knew I wrote that to be an opener, and it is the opener.
Mhm.
And I was like, this has to be the opener, and this has to be the first song that's anyone hears from the record, even though it's not like a single necessarily. Um, I knew that I had to like start the whole project or whatever. So I knew that was going to be the opener. And I guess when I wrote uh, I Don't Love Nothing and Nothing Loves Me, I kind of felt like that would be a closer too, because it just felt like that's what it should be. Track listing otherwise, me and Mike Horner, who mixed the record and also was my engineer
Mm.
for most of it. Uh, Me and him just spent like when we got into the last final couple of weeks of making the record, we did a lot of work on the back end of like after we tracked a lot, we then like reamped loads of stuff, and we spent weeks and weeks and weeks like recutting it into the record. So by the end of making it, I felt like I'd kind of made the album like 3 times, which was um exhausting. Like it was a lot. I was like so ready for it to be finished.
Mhm.
Um, but in the last couple of weeks, we started to like put stuff on. We were using a program called Sampley, and it's just to listen back to stuff, but we would sort of like shift around the tracks all the time and sort of find a happy balance. Um, yeah, it's funny because like I was so ready to have the record finished and put to bed. I was like, oh my God, I just want to like let this go. But it's so funny. This is classic me. There's always little things. I'm like, oh fuck, I didn't do that. Like there's still things. There's one little weird thing in Love's the Worst I hear every time, and there should be a harmony that should be much higher in the mix. You can't really hear it, but it was such an important harmony to me, and it's just not there. And I'm like, how did I fucking miss that? Considering I spent so long combing over the record. But
Yeah.
stuff like that, I guess, happens, and that's just something you have to live with, I suppose.
Absolutely. I know you mentioned you're someone that when a deadline's put on you, you push back on it and push and push and push. So I'm curious, like, when do you know it's time to send it off and be done with it? Because you're saying now, like, you're listening back to the record and you're like, shit. So I'm curious, like, when you know it's time. Is there someone that's like, if you don't send it to us, it's never coming out? Like,
Yeah, like sort of. I guess Mike, like, I work with Mike Horner a lot. He's a fantastic engineer, like top level engineer, and a fantastic producer in his own right as well. He was kind of that guy that eventually was like, dude, like we're gonna finish this.
Yeah.
So I guess he was that guy in that process. But I usually know when I know when something's finished, and that's why I'm like, when labels, bless them, they're just trying to do their job and get the music out and stuff. But like when people from the label side or management side or anything is hurrying me, I'm like, I put up hard boundaries because I'm like, I know when this is finished. I can see the whole picture. I'm gonna do that. And sometimes I know that's annoying and it's problematic, but I'm just like, I just don't care because this is going to be there forever. And the fact that you need to save 2 weeks, I don't give a fuck about that. Like, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
That said, like you just correctly said, I still forgot something on Love's the Worst, which drives me so mental. But there's only a handful of those details. And I guess when you're trying to like corral a whole record into its finishing point, it's like trying to like herd horses or cats or whatever. Like there's so many things you're kind of thinking about to like balance so everything arrives at the right point, finished at the same time. I guess there's always going to be a couple of things that you maybe drop. And that's okay. I think in reality, like considering how much work was put into this record, the fact that I forgot a harmony there and like one other thing, I feel pretty stoked about that. It really was like a huge amount of work and like kind of redoing it over and over. So finally, when it was finished, it was like a huge weight off me, which was awesome.
absolutely.
That's great. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating the record?
I'm very like focused on finishing the record and like making the record and finishing it. And in many ways, the record becomes like the central piece of my life that I'm obsessing about. And it's like that's my world for that whole period of time. But obviously, like life still happens outside of that. Like, you got to pay bills, you get sick, like life is happening, family stuff, like whatever. So you have to balance that. So I guess like whatever is going on there is going on, and I'm sort of managing that. But creatively, where my head is at when I'm making a record is just very focused and like I sort of eat, sleep, breathe it, and I'm thinking about it when I lie in bed, and um, it's pretty obsessive, I guess, which is awesome to be as focused on something as that. But it's also like, when it starts to stop me sleeping and stuff like that, I'm like, oh man, that's too much.
Miserable. Yeah.
Yeah, like, when you have a little thing in your brain
Oh, yeah.
that's going around all the time, or you're like, oh my God, that's the thing. And it's like, it's midnight. Like, I don't want to be thinking about this, but my brain
Exactly.
is thinking about this. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't turn your brain off. I'm the
Yeah.
exact same way. It's fucking annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. I sometimes like that's majoritively when I have to smoke weed. When I'm making a record and I go to bed, I'm just like, I have to just like switch this off. And that's
Yeah.
usually when I'll smoke weed. because my brain, yeah, it can just get like you said, you can just get so hooked on something. It's like, oh my God, I need to not be doing this right now.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Fact.
So this question should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Oh my God, I'm gonna suck at this. I would say this album is heavy,
Mhm.
it's vulnerable, and it's fun.
There you go.
Beautiful.
You nailed it.
You didn't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Amazing.
Are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of the album for this last question?
I'm trying to think of some really fun bits, but like the one thing that comes to my mind, coming out of hospital, I was physically like not great, and then when we started the recording process, obviously I was into the recording process in studios and putting vocals down and stuff, and my body just wasn't ready or able to put down vocals. So like we had to split up the vocal sessions into a lot of different sessions rather than just nailing a song in one day.
Mhm.
I'd have to just do bits, which was time consuming and pretty tricky. But the bits like the very first thing you hear on the record, the intro About to Lose It, has this like gnarly ass heavy metal old school 80s scream intro. I really wanted it to be like visceral and yeah, really bitching. And the same thing with Big Dogs. I wanted that vocal to be so intense, the chorus vocal of that song to be so intense. And that was so challenging for me to do at that point in time. But when I did it, it was such a I was so like stoked, so happy because it came out really, really well. And I was able to sort of like, I don't know where I got it from, but like conjure that force to sing those parts. And I was just so fucking stoked. And it was such a like a victory for me. And now when I listen to those bits, I get that feeling of, oh wow, you really did that.
Yeah.
Which is cool because I was like, fuck, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, that thing that I really want to do. And I did do it. So every time I listen to it now, I feel like I achieved something.
Exactly.
Love that. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So as Glory said, that's all the questions we had today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Just the record. Please go and listen to the record. It's cool.
Hell
yeah.
Love
You
it.
sold me.
All right. Well, thank you. It's been Matt from Dinosaur Pile-Up, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.